Paris on Politics from Fox 32 Chicago.
Some opening shot thoughts. Should he or shouldn't he? President Trump sets off a debate across the city over bringing in the National Guard to help fight crime and enforce immigration laws. We know how most elected local Democrats feel about it. We know what federal law says about it. The president can't do it without the governor's request unless there's an extreme national emergency like the Insurrection Act. All of those things aside, could it actually work? 38th Ward Alderman Nick Sposato, a former firefighter, says he believes not only would it not, but it could backfire.
A terrible idea. They don't have policing powers. They don't really know what to do. More importantly, you're putting 18, 19-year-old kids on streets they're unfamiliar with M16s. I see it as a recipe for disaster.
Add in former Chicago Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy, who says there's really not much in the realm of day-to-day crime fighting the National Guard is trained to do.
Not going to respond to calls for service. They're not going to be doing car stops. They're not going to be doing street stops. They might not even be armed, and as such, they could be targets.
So National Guard troops, they have to leave their families and their jobs to deploy. So if there's not much they can do, perhaps it's not the best use of their time to send them to the streets of American cities that don't want them. But Sposato and McCarthy have a novel idea. If the president is serious about fighting crime and not simply political theater, make him put his money where his mouth is.
Who's got the direct line to the president other than probably the governor? So instead, we're fighting one publicity stunt with another publicity stunt.
At the end of the day, this is not good for the country as far as Democrats and Republicans at war. And there has to be a bipartisan method to get these things done.
Coming up on Paris on Politics.
Tonight, down to the wire. What happens if CPS fails to pass a budget tomorrow? We speak with CPS CEO and board members about tomorrow's contentious vote. And the truth is out there. Is the U.S. government finally ready to let us know it? A UFO expert pushes Congress to declassify all its secrets.
This is Paris on Politics from Fox 32 Chicago.
Welcome to Paris on Politics. The standoff on Chicago's Board of Education is coming to a head. A vote on the CPS budget is less than 24 hours away, and political disagreements could derail what has been a successful start to the new school year. The political ads are already flying. This one from the Chicago Teachers Union attacks the elected school board members who support the budget and oppose new borrowing, claiming falsely that it will lead to mid-year cuts. This one from a political action group called Common Ground Collective claims the mayoral-appointed members are, quote, selling out CPS. It all comes ahead of tomorrow's vote to either affirm or reject the CPS budget that closes a $734 million gap with cuts, pushing a $175 million pension payment onto the city, and anticipates $400 million in TIF surplus funds. Mayor Johnson, the CTU, and their appointed board members oppose the budget, saying it should include the pension payment and the short-term loan. CPS leaders have called that approach reckless and one that could lead to a downward spiral of debt and interest. As it stands, 10 members oppose, 9 support, with a new board member expected to be appointed who would conceivably give the mayor one more vote. Today, more than half of City Council signed a letter calling on the board to approve the budget, saying, quote, our workers and students will ultimately pay the short-term cost of these willfully reckless financial decisions, but the pain will be felt by Chicago's children. And today, interim CEO Macklin King says a shutdown is unprecedented, and if changes have to be made to the budget, she's open.
I stand by the budget that I proposed. However, again, if board members decide to go in a different path, I will, accept that and work with the board and the district to implement the budget that's passed.
Meanwhile, last night, Mayor Johnson pushed back on the critics, saying previous CPS leaders took on even greater borrowing.
These individuals were reckless. Let's call it like it is. When you put a black man in charge of a city, all of a sudden, everybody wants to be in the county.
And we're joined now by CPS Interim CEO, Dr. Macklin King. Dr. King, thanks for speaking with us. So the last count we had on the Board of Education, there was a small majority opposing this budget. Does that mean you might amend it or change it before tomorrow's vote?
Thank you for having me, Paris. I'm not sure if it means that we may amend. I definitely respect each of the board members' decisions. If an amendment is brought up, we will follow the parliamentary procedure in pursuing the amendment.
And if the budget does get voted down, does that mean there is no budget and schools could shut down? Or what is the protocol?
Historically, that has never happened. So that would set a precedent. I do believe that, like I said before, each of the board members, I think we all want the same thing. The approach and how we get there may be different. And I believe that we will reach a consensus or at least a majority vote and pass a budget tomorrow.
What would that consensus look like, do you think? Would there be some changes to the $175 million pension payment or the borrowing provision?
I think each of those options are on the table. And I do believe that there'll be discussion, that this is a 21-member board. I believe that there'll be some discussion and a vote will go forward and we'll pass a budget. And either scenarios could prevail.
You're saying all options are on the table, meaning that you might support modifying the provision for the $175 million payment.
The budget that I proposed is a responsible, balanced budget. And of course, ideally in an ideal world, that's the budget that would be passed. However, if the board decides that there is a different budget that they would like to have approved, then I will work with the board in collaboration of whichever budget is passed.
Have they indicated to you that they would like to see changes, some specific changes that could get a majority of board members on board?
I have not had direct communication in regards to a different proposal other than mine at this point.
And this comes obviously as schools just started their new year. How has the first week plus been so far?
It's been an honor as a CPS graduate, parent of CPS students, teacher, principal, and it has been an amazing start to the school year. I've always loved the first day of school, and this year did not disappoint. I think the only disappointment would be that I did not have the opportunity to visit each of the schools on this opening day. However, I think all of the hard work that has gone forth over the years was evident in each of the school communities that I did have an opportunity to visit.
And I want to go back to what you were saying before about the budget, because your own budget director was saying that any new short-term borrowing would lead to a spiral of financial problems. Do you still agree with that?
The budget that I put forth does not include borrowing in the format that's presented. And I feel like CPS has the opportunity to borrow in the event of an emergency. And so I stand by the budget that I proposed. However, again, if board members decide to go in a different path, I will, accept that and work with the board and the district to implement the budget that's passed.
Okay, CPS CEO Dr. Macklin King will be certainly a notable and long meeting tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And now with us are more Chicago Board of Education elected members, Ellen Rosenfeld and Carlos Rivas. We did reach out to some of the appointed members that are supportive of Mayor Johnson. We did not get any confirmation from any of them, but we do appreciate you being here. So, Carlos Rivas, I'll start with you. Is this budget on track to get rejected as is tomorrow?
Unfortunately, it seems that way. I am very hopeful that we'll be able to come together, especially after today's letter from City Council disproving the lies that we've been told by our board president and frankly, the propaganda that we've received from the other side. I'm very hopeful that people will see that this is a balanced budget that protects our classrooms and that we are able to move forward and keep school going this year.
And that, of course, is a budget that does not include the short-term loan and that pension payment, which is what CTU has been calling for. They want those things in there. Ellen Rosenfeld, you heard the CEO there. She had been firmly sticking with your side on this. Does it sound like there's some cracks here?
I hope not. You know, as a board, it's our fiduciary responsibility to protect the classroom. Any type of short-term borrowing for operations does the exact opposite of protecting the classroom. You know, it just proves that all politics are local and elections have consequences.
What Carlos Rivas, what happens then? If she said maybe there's an amendment process, I mean, like a shutdown would be unprecedented. So if a budget gets rejected, does the board caucus among themselves and pass some kind of amendment?
No, we have a spending resolution right now that gets us through Friday of this week. And if we do not pass a budget tomorrow evening, if we end the meeting without a budget passed, that means schools will not reopen by Tuesday.
And that's something parents are probably very anxious to hear. Ellen Rosenfeld, then. But again, unpacking what the CEO just said there, does it sound like she might go back and modify some of these issues on the loan and the pension just to please some of those opposing board members?
I don't think she'll go back and modify it. I think they have the majority of votes. So it's up to those of us that were elected to continue to stay the course here, vote for what we know to be a responsible budget that does not make cuts to the classroom. Borrowing would lead to a downgrade in our credit rating. If we borrow, it's $200 million, it ends up costing, I don't know, some crazy, what's the...
One of your colleagues said it would be $400 million.
$400 million.
So it would just basically double.
Double.
Which will lead to cuts in the classroom next year.
Correct.
Well, what they're saying is it's a bridge to getting $1.6 billion more from the state. And again, according to our reporting or any indication, that money's not coming.
No, and the blame game's not working. It hasn't worked. We need to sit down and really collaborate. So let's pass this budget on Thursday so that students go to school on Tuesday. Because if, in fact, we don't and class is shut down and parents are home with their kids, again, pay attention to how your school board member voted on this budget. It matters. And
it will have been because of a political difference. But the mayor made the point last night, Carlos, that borrowing has been going on in CPS forever. There was a great chalk beat story saying the debt level's around $10 billion, way more than most other school districts. So he's saying, why are you criticizing me for doing what everyone else has done?
Right, because today our budget that we've proposed has $800 million going just into debt service. That is the loans of the past that we're paying for today. If we had those $800 million, we would not be in this mess today. And so taking on more debt is not the solution here to make sure that we're fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' money and running a school district as big as Chicago.
And the district has proposed a balanced budget. We can do it. We can do it without taking out a loan, without making that MEABF payment. That's not our responsibility.
And this comes, the mayor is going to appoint a member to an open seat here, get sworn in, and then immediately vote on the year's budget without having any briefings, any kind of hearings. Should that member vote on that budget?
I think that member should abstain from this vote. I don't think he's been involved in the community engagement that we've done around this budget. I don't believe he's been involved in the training and the briefings that we've had. So I think the right thing to do would be to abstain from the vote tomorrow.
How do you think this is going to go? I mean, this is a mystery right now. It does not have the votes to pass. The CEO has stood strong, but now it sounds like maybe she has to rethink. I mean, can they just rethink it and present a new budget? They already presented their budget.
Right, they wouldn't be able to just present a new budget, right? There's many rules around, when we post the budget, how many days we have, and the hearings required. So they wouldn't be able to do that. It really comes down to tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to prevail. But at the end of the day, we just need to remember who is it that's costing more cuts to the classroom in the future, and that's what taking out this $200 million loan would do.
Do you anticipate any of the board members thinking twice about this, perhaps flipping their vote?
Yes.
You're thinking some of them
I'm
would.
thinking positively, Paris. I think, I sleep well at night knowing that I'm doing the right thing on behalf of the families and the students in Chicago Public Schools. I would like to believe that my fellow board members who have the same fiduciary responsibility that I do are going to go to sleep tonight and do the same thing.
All right, never any shortage of intrigue at CPS these days. My thanks to board members Carlos Rivas and Ellen Rosenfeld.
Thank you.
Get ready for a long day tomorrow. And when we come back, the question everyone wants to know is the government keeping UFO secrets? Right after this.